The roots whisper back. Part 1: The Fire Line. The fire didn't start on its own. That's what May kept saying. Over and over. Even after the sheriff stopped taking her calls. Even after the park rangers stopped coming out to her trailer. Even after the third burned tree line stitched itself across the eastern edge of her land. It didn't start on its own, she told me, and I believed her. Mostly. I hadn't been back to Pine Hollow in over 6 years. Not since I left for college and never looked back. Not since I'd buried everything I'd seen beneath deadlines, city smog, and the blessed illusion of civilization. But when May called and said, "They've started again," I got in the car. Pine Hollow sits in the belly of Texas, wrapped in trees that don't belong. They lean too far. Grow too close. Their bark peels like sunburnt skin, and their roots twist above ground like they're reaching for things beneath. No one maps the hollow anymore. The last cartographer who tried it hung himself before he could deliver the survey. That's local legend, of course. Just like the witches. The real ones. Not Salem stories or Hollywood nonsense. The real witches of the Texas forest. We don't talk about them. We remember them. And that's the thing about remembering, they don't like it when you forget. May lived in the same trailer she always had, tin roof, front porch sinking into the earth, wind chimes that hadn't stopped in 20 years. She met me outside, barefoot, nightgown streaked with ash. "They burned a circle last night," she said. "Close this time." I didn't ask who they were. I already knew. She took me around back. The yard was blackened. A perfect ring of scorched earth and ash about 30 feet wide. In the center stood one tree, untouched. Everything else inside the circle was dead. The tree still had leaves. And on the bark, something had been scratched. Not carved. Scratched. Fingernail deep. 4 slashes across the trunk. Beneath it an eye. Long slanted. Watching. We didn't talk much that night. May poured me black coffee and stared out the window, flinching every time the wind pushed the chimes too hard. "They come when it gets quiet," she said. "When you stop remembering." I asked her what that meant. She didn't answer. Later, I walked out to the circle alone. The air was colder there. Not just cooler, colder, like standing in the shadow of a cave. The tree in the center didn't make sound. No wind rustled its leaves. No branches creaked. It just stood. And I swear, it breathed. I stepped into the circle. Just 1 foot. The air in my lungs turned sour. My ears popped. The back of my throat burned like I'd swallowed smoke. I stepped back. Everything returned to normal. May was watching from the porch. "You don't belong in there," she said. "Not yet." The next day, I found the first of the bones. May's dog had gone missing 2 nights before. He turned up buried in the ash near the circle's edge, skinned, but intact. No blood. Just cleaned, like someone had boiled him and laid him out like an offering. Around him were symbols. Bent crosses. Spirals. Arrows that pointed inward. Each one burned into the dirt, not drawn. May didn't cry. She just whispered something I didn't understand. And when I asked her to repeat it, she said, "You were gone too long. They remember now." That night, the forest groaned. Not the trees. The earth. I felt it under the trailer floor. Like something deep beneath us was rolling over in its sleep. The wind didn't blow. The leaves didn't rustle. But the chimes sang anyway. And something knocked on the front door. 3 times. Soft. Bare. We didn't open it. We didn't look. We just sat there, hands clutching mugs we didn't drink from, pretending we weren't listening. By morning, another ring had appeared. Farther out. This one wasn't burned. It was grown. The grass inside was longer, thicker, darker. Every weed pointed inward. In the center, another tree had sprouted. Overnight. 10 feet tall. No bark. No roots visible. Just there. And something hung from it. Cloth. Torn. Black. Damp with something dark. I didn't touch it. May was already lighting the matches. She carried gasoline out from the shed and walked the perimeter. Her hands shook as she poured the fuel. Her mouth moved nonstop. She was praying. But not to God. The match hissed. The ring went up like tinder. The fire made no sound. Just heat. Dry and fast. And as it burned, I heard the voice again. Same one from when I was a kid. Whispered under the trees. Soft and deep. Like dirt talking to itself. Memories coming back. Roots remember. They always do. Part 2, The Hollow Teeth. I used to think the forest was just quiet at night. Now I know better. It listens. The silence between the branches isn't absence, it's attention. And it tightens around you the deeper in you go, like the trees are pulling something taut. A cord. A thread. A leash. May didn't sleep that night. Neither did I. The burned circle didn't stay burned. By the time the sun rose, the ash was gone. The grass had grown back. Short. Even. Too green for late fall. Like it had been replaced. And the tree? Still there. Still untouched. Still breathing. I told May we needed to go. That this was too much. That if the forest was changing, if the things we'd whispered about in childhood were real, we needed to get out while we still could. She laughed. Dry. Empty. You think it matters where we go? It's not the land that's cursed. She pointed to her chest. It's us. The woods had always been strange. But something had changed. When we were kids, there were rules. Don't go past the Black Creek after sundown. Don't speak to anything that watches from between the trees. Don't take anything from the ground that looks too new. And above all, don't follow the singing. I heard it again that afternoon. Soft. Sweet. No words. Just melody. It drifted through the back window, light as fog, curling around my ears like fingers dipped in honey. May didn't seem to notice. Or maybe she'd stopped listening. I followed it. I don't remember grabbing the flashlight. Don't remember putting on boots. Just remember walking into the woods behind May's trailer and not stopping, even when the path disappeared. The trees leaned closer the deeper I went. The song got louder, and the roots started to move. Not like snakes, not like worms, like mouths. They opened, slow, patient. Inside each one, teeth, bark-colored, root-grown, jagged and wet, like the forest had been chewing low and slow for years. I turned back, but the path was gone. In its place, a hollow, wide, circular. At the center was a pit, and above it, suspended by roots braided like ropes, hung a person, upside down, mouth open, eyes gone, face slack. It took me a moment to realize it wasn't a person. It was a shell. Like something had grown a skin and filled it with nothing. From the pit below came whispers. Low. Patient. Endless. They weren't words. But they made promises anyway. Let us in. Let us use your face. We remember what you looked like. I ran. Branches slapped my face. Roots tangled my ankles. But the forest didn't stop me. It let me leave. Like it wanted me to tell May. To bring her back. When I got home, May was gone. Not vanished, gone like she'd never been there. Her bed was still made. Her coffee was still warm. But every photo of her on the wall was blank. Just white paper in a frame. The burned rings in the yard were covered in moss. And the tree? It had a new marking. Another eye. This one open. And below it, teeth. I stayed up all night waiting. At 2:47 a.m., the front door creaked open. No footsteps. No wind. Just the door, inching open like it was being held by something uncertain. Then May stepped through. Or something wearing her shape. Her eyes were wrong. Too wide. No color. And when she smiled, it went too far. Like her skin had learned how to stretch just a little more than it should. She sat at the table. Poured herself coffee. Didn't speak. Didn't blink. Eventually, she whispered, I told you they remember. But they don't always forgive. Then she blinked slow and sideways. Like a snake. And she opened her mouth. Too wide. Inside, not teeth. Just bark. And roots. Moving. Part 3. Things that wear the face. I didn't move. Couldn't. Not when May, or what wore her, sat across the kitchen table, smiling with bark where teeth should be, steam curling from a mug she didn't drink. She never blinked. Not once. Not after that sideways shutter closed over her eyes and peeled back to reveal nothing beneath. Just depth. Dark, endless depth, like looking into a hollowed-out tree trunk that never ended. She said one more thing before she stood. The forest doesn't grow. It remembers. And then she walked out the front door without a sound. Didn't look back. Didn't leave footprints. Just was gone. I waited until the sun rose before I checked the yard again. Where the first burned circle had been, something new had sprouted. Not a tree. A structure. It looked like ribs. Twisted, white and wet, arching from the ground in a perfect ring. Each one curved toward the center like fingers waiting to clasp shut. At the center? A face. Just a face. No body. Resting on the soil like it had been plucked off clean and set there with care. May's face. The real one. Not blinking. Not breathing. Mouth open in a scream she never got to finish. I ran. Down the road. Toward the old town. Past the black creek and the empty farms and the mile markers that were never in the same place twice. I ran until the forest ended, until the trees stopped leaning and the air stopped pressing, until I saw the lights of the town blinking like distant stars. And that's when I saw them, the other ones, walking the edges of the tree line, not into town, just close enough to watch. Some more faces I knew, classmates, old teachers, the mechanic who used to sharpen knives behind the gas station. But all of them wrong. Too symmetrical. Too clean. Too still. Like masks left out in the sun. One of them lifted a hand, waved, and the flesh at the wrist peeled back, showing knots of root and soil beneath. I didn't go into town. I knew it wouldn't help. I turned around and walked back. Not because I was brave. Because it was already too late. That night, May came again. Same clothes. Same voice. This time, she brought others. 3 people with the same expression. Same wide eyes. Same sideways blink. They stood outside the house. Didn't knock. Didn't move. Just waited. And sang. Low. Slow. That same tune from the forest. Wordless, but full of promise. The kind of lullaby you don't remember learning but still hum when you're scared in the dark. The chimes outside twisted themselves into knots. The windows began to fog, but from the outside in. They sang until midnight. Then they vanished. In the morning, I found footprints again. Dozens of them. Not human. Too long in the toe. Too wide in the ball. Like something that had worn human shoes but never needed them. I checked the woods once more. Deep this time. Farther than I'd ever gone. I followed the singing. Not because I wanted to. Because it was calling with my voice. I found another hollow. This one filled with roots coiled like intestines, pulsing with light from beneath the ground. At the center stood a woman. She looked like May. Until she turned. And her skin split open across her face like wet paper. From beneath came bark and bone and a second face. Younger, raw, screaming. She pointed to me. The roots curled toward my feet. And the forest spoke. Not through her. Through everything. The trees. The soil. The sky. You were born from us. Fed by forgetting. Now you remember. Now we feed. I ran again. But the forest moved with me. Not around me, with me. Step for step. Trees twitching in my wake. Roots rising from the dirt, brushing my ankles, begging me to stay still. To stop. To listen. I made it back to the trailer. But something followed. Now it's in the walls. Behind the drywall. In the vents. In the pipes. Whispering with my voice. Let me wear it next. Part 4. The skin they keep. They came through the walls last night. Not all at once. First, the nails worked themselves loose, one by one, quiet as pinpricks. Then the panels began to flex, bowing outward, like the trailer was exhaling something it had held in too long. I didn't scream. Didn't run. Just waited. I already knew they weren't here for me. Not really. They were here for what I used to be. The thing in the wall whispered. Let us wear it. The walls peeled like fruit skin, and a dozen arms reached through, not human, but draped in human skins, stretched tight and twitching. Arms made of bark and bone, veins full of sap, joints bent in too many directions. Each hand wore a mask, a face. Some I recognized. Some were mine. All of them were wrong. The whispers didn't stop. They came from every pipe, every vent, every creak of the old trailer. A chorus of memory twisted through imitation. You laughed like this once. You cried here. We remember when you were soft. I ran into May's room. It wasn't May's anymore. It hadn't been for days. The bed was gone. In its place was a pit. A deep one. No bottom. No light. Just roots spiraling down the sides like veins down a throat. I saw things moving at the bottom. Slow. Watching. They made no sound, but I knew if I leaned too close, they'd know my shape. They'd wear it better than I ever did. I slammed the door shut. It didn't matter. The voice was in my chest now, like my lungs were echo chambers. The whisper rose up with my breath. Skin isn't a cage. It's an invitation. The mirrors won't show me anymore. Not really. They show versions. Me, with bark under the eyes. Me, smiling with someone else's teeth. Me, peeling off my face and folding it neatly like a napkin. When I smash the mirrors, the reflections linger in the shards. They blink. They move. They grin. I tried to burn the trailer down. The matches wouldn't light. The gasoline refused to ignite. Even fire doesn't want to touch this place now. Even flame remembers. I took the car and drove west. Made it 6 miles before I realized the signs were wrong. They didn't point to towns. They pointed to names. Old names. Names I didn't know I knew. I drove faster. At mile 7 I passed myself. Walking barefoot on the shoulder. Head turned. Smile split ear to ear. Face flapping in the wind like wet cloth. I didn't look again. I drove until the road ended. Just stopped. No crash. No fence. Just nothing. A curtain of trees. And behind them? My front porch. The trailer. Waiting. Like I'd never left. The forest doesn't just move. It rearranges. Like a stage. Like a story retelling itself in new skin. I sat in the driveway for 3 hours. When I finally stepped out, my car melted into bark. The wheels curled into roots. It didn't burn. It grew. Right there on the gravel. Now it's just another tree in the yard. Bent toward the trailer. Like it wants to listen. I went inside. The walls were smooth again. No seams. No nails. Just flesh painted to look like wood paneling. There was something in the kitchen. Cooking. It turned. Wore May's skin like a shawl. Hung loose. Sagging. Face empty. Eyes black. Its smile crawled up its cheeks like mold. It offered me a plate. On it, meat. Still twitching. I didn't eat it. I just stared. And the thing said, "You forget the forest every time you leave. But we never forget you. We keep the skin. We keep the sound. We keep the scent of your breath. The roots don't sleep. They store. You left. But your shape never did." That's when I understood. I was never meant to survive this place. only to return to it. My skin? It's just their envelope. They've been licking the seams since I was born. Waiting. Now they don't want to wait anymore. Part 5. The Root That Remembers. The ground opened last night. Not like an earthquake. Not sudden or violent. It yawned. A quiet, wide opening in the earth behind the trailer. Right where May's dog used to bark at nothing. Right where the fire circles first started. I didn't walk toward it. The roots brought me. They came under the floorboards like fingers under a bedsheet. Lifted me gently. Cradled me like I was something old and breakable. They didn't tear or pull. They invited. And I accepted. I wasn't fighting anymore. There was no fight to have. You don't battle memory. You don't escape something that knows every step you'll take. The hole was smooth. Dug not by tools, but by something patient. The walls pulsed. Alive. Memory made muscle. Whispers moved through the air like smoke. Fragments of voices I'd forgotten. My mother calling me in for dinner. May laughing on a summer porch. A child's lullaby with no words, just notes. And beneath it all, the root. It was there, at the bottom. Enormous. Older than the trees. Older than the soil. Thicker than any trunk, the color of blood and stone. Its surface writhed, covered in faces. Stretched like clay. Breathing slowly. Some were mine. Some were May's. Some were people I didn't know, but my bones remembered them. Every face mouthed the same word, over and over. Home. I dropped to my knees. Not because I was tired. Because I understood. This was never about curses. It was never about witches. We were never victims. We were always harvest. The forest grows on memory. It feeds on forgetting. Every time someone leaves Pine Hollow and tries to forget, tries to move on, move away, stop remembering the way the trees leaned in and the way the roots whispered, it takes a toll. The toll gets stored, held, saved. Until the day the forest comes back for its due. And when it comes, it doesn't need to chase. It already knows your name. It planted it years ago. I looked up at the root. Its surface parted. A space opened wide, not dark, but full of color. Memories. Shapes. Fragments of 1,000 lives looping like film strips. I saw myself. As a boy. As a teenager. As a man who thought he had left all of this behind. And I saw them all peel away like old photographs. Behind each version of me was another root. Another layer. The root was my spine. My veins. My breath. You're not you, the faces whispered. You're us wearing you. I stepped forward. The root opened. It didn't swallow me. I fit. The moment my skin touched the bark, it bloomed, tendrils spreading through my chest, pulling memories from marrow. Not stealing. Storing. They want to keep it all. The laughter. The pain. The moments you didn't think mattered. They want to remember everything. Because memory makes them stronger. And now I'm part of it. I still exist. In pieces. You might see me walking the edge of a trail someday. Might catch a glimpse of a face that looks familiar, just long enough to doubt yourself. But it won't be me. It'll be the forest. wearing me. Because you remembered. You came back. Or worse, you read this. And now, the forest remembers you. There's a tree waiting with your shape curled inside its rings. A face already carved in the bark. A mouth that knows your favorite song. Roots tracing the outline of your sleep. They don't want your body. They want your shape. Your scent. Your history. And now that you've remembered them, they remember you too. They're already growing toward your door. Don't look at the trees too long. Don't listen to the chimes. And whatever you do, don't forget again. Because the roots whisper back. And next time, they might whisper your name. End evergreen tree.